Hey YouTube, how's it going? Dustin Smith here with A2K, Allegiance to the King. Today we're going to be looking at Jesus Christ, and we're going to look at how Jesus Christ would correct those people who might have said something a little too exalted of Jesus that might be confused with the position and the prominence that belongs to God alone, okay? Jesus clearly was someone who was distinguished from God in the Christian Gospels. And when people, as we're going to see in a variety of passages, when people would start to say things about Jesus that sounded a little too exalted of Jesus, he stopped them right there and he corrected them just to make sure that the position that belongs to God alone was maintained and set apart and sanctified. Okay, let's look at one of our most commonly cited passages. This is in Mark chapter 10 and verse 17, where it says, "And he was setting out on a journey. A man ran up to him and knelt before him and asked him, 'Good teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life?' And Jesus said to him, 'Why do you call me good? No one is good except God alone.'" All right, that is Mark 10:17 through 18. Someone comes up to Jesus, says, "Good teacher, what do I got to do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus says, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa. Why are you calling me what is good? That belongs to God alone." Okay, and actually, although our translation says no one is good except God alone, the Greek text is a little more specific. In the Greek text, it says, "Uvis agathos imi is o theos." No one is good except one person, the God. Okay, no one is good except one person, who is namely God. All right, Jesus here is distinguishing himself from God, and by the way, he describes God there as one person because is, as the adjective when it's masculine, is referring to one person. No one is good except one person, namely God. So here, notice this. Someone comes to Jesus and starts to say something really exalted about him. "You're the good teacher. I'm going to kneel down before you. What do I got to do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus says, "Hold on. Why do you call me good? No one is good except that one person that we all know, and that one person is God." Jesus makes sure that the claims and the titles that are given to him, at least at this point, prior to his resurrection, his exaltation, were not to be confused with claims that should belong to God alone. Okay? We can also see this in the Gospel of John, John chapter 5. In John chapter 5, I'm going to start in verse 18. It says, "For this reason, therefore, the Jews were seeking all the more to kill him, because not only was he breaking the Sabbath, but also was calling God his own Father, making himself equal to God." Okay, so there's something here about Jesus claiming that God is his own Father that in the eyes of his opponents, in the eyes of the Jews, was making Jesus equal with God. Okay, so this is the perception that they have. How does Jesus respond? Well, let's look here, very next verse, John 5 and verse 19. "Therefore, Jesus answered and was saying to them, 'Truly, truly, I say to you, the Son can do nothing of himself, unless it is something he sees the Father doing. For whatever the Father does, these things the Son also does in like manner.'" Okay, that's a good answer from Jesus. Okay, people are misunderstanding Jesus, and that's a common theme in the Gospel of John, that Jesus' dialogue partners and his opponents misunderstand what Jesus is doing, so Jesus has to come along and explain it for them. Okay, Jesus says when they are thinking that Jesus is claiming equality with God or making himself out to be equal with God, he responds by saying, look, the Son can't do anything by himself. Okay, by himself, Jesus cannot do anything. He can't do a single thing. Okay, he says the Son can do nothing of himself unless it's something he sees the Father doing first. Okay, Jesus describes himself as an obedient Son, always following in the footsteps of the Father, of God the Father. Whatever the Father does, these things the Son also does in like manner. That phrase, "in like manner," is the way that Jesus would want the equality to be defined. It's an equality of will. It's an equality of obedience. It's an equality of an obedient Son following after the example of the Father. But notice here, the way that Jesus responds is that he answered and he was saying to them. Okay? That is, the sense in the Greek to where he was continually saying this, okay? He was saying, the Son can do nothing of himself. The Son can do nothing of himself. The Son can do nothing of himself. He made sure to go on and on and on and on, as the Greek text says here, to make it clear that he was not claiming any sort of equality with God in the sense that the Father and the Son are co-equal from the later non-biblical creeds. He was saying, no, he is an obedient Son who is only doing the things in like manner with the Father by being obedient and following in the footsteps of the Father, okay? So it's very interesting here to see in these two passages, Mark chapter 10 and John chapter 5, that when people misunderstand or start to say some exalted things about Jesus, Jesus, as a good teacher, corrects them and makes sure that they walk away without thinking that Jesus was claiming or doing things that were co-equal with the Father, okay? Jesus is subordinate to the Father, and the Father is greater than I, says Jesus in John 14 and verse 28. Hopefully this has encouraged you in your understanding about Jesus and the way that he wanted people to understand him in relationship to God the Father, whom Jesus describes as the only true God, okay? Be sure to like, subscribe, and share for more videos from A2K. My name is Dustin Smith. I'm with Allegiance to the King, and until next time, take care.